Well, hey everybody. It's been a while since I recorded one of these, but given what just happened in Connecticut with the shooting of these children, I thought that I would offer some thoughts, and I'm kind of really going to be working out some of what I think as I'm talking here. So I apologize if I'm not as theologically astute as some people would want me to be. I'm sorry if some people think that my words are too soon, given that it only happened a few days ago and the bodies have not even been buried at this point. But I guess this is how I mourn. I guess this is my part of the equation, so to speak. And some people will accept what I have to say, and some people will not accept what I have to say. And this isn't going to be about gun control or allowing prayer in schools. I've seen that conversation kind of unfold ad nauseum on Facebook and on Twitter and in newspapers and op-ed pieces and all those kinds of things. I'm not here to give a speech that offers hope, so to speak. I think that there will be hope in what I have to say. Anytime that you're talking about God, you are talking about the hope of the world. But I am wrestling with how to deal with national tragedy and personal tragedy and God and the question of evil right now. And so I'm going to try to work some of that out, and I know at the end of this I will not have worked it out, but I guess I can try. But I really wanted to talk about God in the midst of all of this, because I have heard a lot of people ask the question, where was God? As a matter of fact, yesterday morning my pastor got up before our sermon and just talked about this same thing and said, a lot of people are asking this question about God, and I want you to know that God was right there. God was in the midst of it all. And they're words of hope, they're words of encouragement, and they're words that often play out in churches when things like this happen, when narratives like this unfold. And while it is true that God was right there, I think far too many people are given simplistic answers to the question, because we don't know what to say. We don't know how to make sense of it either, because as I read through Scripture, I see a God who is horrified by the things that mankind does to one another. When Cain slew Abel in the field, God said, "The blood of your brother it's crying out to me from the ground. What have you done? Where is your brother Abel? Where is he? What is going on, Cain? Why is there blood crying to me from the earth? That's not where your brother's blood is supposed to be." And so we have this picture of God who is horrified by the evil that man perpetrates upon one another. But then there is the picture of God that brings calamity. And there's scripture that says, "I, the Lord, bring calamity. I set up and I depose kings." So God's in charge of putting kings on the throne, and He's in charge of ending their life. There's a psalm, and some psalms don't preach easy, where the people of God have been destroyed essentially by their Gentile neighbors because they walked away from Him. And the psalmist says, "You have made your people to see hard things. You have given them wine and caused them to stumble around as if they're shell-shocked." And so we have this God who is horrified at the things that we do to one another, and then we have this God who causes horrible things to happen, and this God who allows things to happen. And so when I think about God and Aurora, Colorado, or the shootings in Columbine, or the shooting in the Amish community, and now this shooting in Connecticut, this question of where was God, the only conclusion I can come to is that God was right there. God was there as the teacher was hiding her children in the closet. And God was right there when she stood up to the gunman and lost her life. And God was right there holding children as they bled out on the ground in their classroom where they should be safe. But God was also, and I don't know how to make sense of this, but God was also there at this man's home as he was loading bullets into his weapon. And God was there as he was driving to the school, and God was there as he jimmied the door open and broke in to what was supposed to be a secure environment to keep these kids safe, where blood is not supposed to cry out from the ground to God. God was there protecting some and allowing others to fall. Why didn't he stop this guy from killing kids? Why didn't he stop this guy from walking into a theater full of people and gunning them down? Why didn't he stop this guy from walking into an Amish community, a community committed to radical forgiveness? Why didn't he stop them? I don't know. And so people are asking the question, where was God in this situation? Because God is supposed to protect. God is supposed to make sure that things like this don't happen. But that's not the picture of God that I see in Scripture. I see a God who sides with the poor. I see a God who is on the side of the victim. But I also see a God that sometimes creates victims. And I don't know how to make sense of that. We say things like God's ways are higher than our ways, okay? But then when it comes to something like this, when it comes to something as terrible and atrocious as a crime that involves children, that goes right out the window. God's ways are higher than our ways unless it involves senseless acts of violence. But if God's ways are higher than our ways, then this is part of his ways. And we either accept that or reject that, and some people do reject it. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I do accept it, but it is probably the hardest part of God for me to accept. A lot of people, growing up said, who are you to question God? In this moment, I question God. What purpose does this have? How high are your ways that it could involve the death of children? How high are your ways that it could involve senseless violence? And we're not talking about war here, where you understand that somebody is hurting another and you have to go and you have to become a melancholy soldier and sometimes take the life of someone else in order to bring out peace and freedom on this earth. I believe that is God ordained. Some people disagree with me, and that's fine. We're not here to talk about pacifism versus non-pacifism. We're here to talk about a God who allows this kind of thing to happen as part of some greater plan, receiving glory. I don't know how this brings him glory. I really don't. I don't understand the purpose in the death of children. I don't understand why he couldn't cause the gunman's gun to stick. I don't know why 20 children had to die. I don't understand why before the birth of his son, right before Christmas, okay, the advent of Jesus, of God touching down on earth and becoming one with mankind. I don't understand why this has to happen now. I guess ultimately everything points to the cross for me, and maybe that's a simple, again, another simple answer. This is me grasping at straws, but the whole thing about Christ coming to earth to be with us was so that he could ultimately lose his own life atrociously at the hands of mankind, at the hands of us. Some people are going to be mad, saying that I'm accusing God of allowing evil to happen. I'm not accusing God of anything. I'm simply stating who God has said that He is. But even though He is a God who allows evil to happen and sometimes ordains for bad things to happen, He is a God who cares. He's a God who loves. He's a God who wraps us in His arms and says, I am so sorry. I know exactly what this feels like. I've been there with you. I lost my own child. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. God allowed this, and God was completely blindsided by this and shell-shocked by this like the rest of us. And there will be judgment. There will be. We do not live in a world without consequences for our actions. Where was God? God was right there.
You are just when flesh was torn for young and